This video was brought to you by Pipedrive. Try Pipedrive for free for 30 days by signing up with the link in the description. To become the next game changer in zero-emission vehicles, you can't rely on just good design. It seems that you also need to brash and bold. Oh, and lots of tweeting. You're also bound to suffer from comparisons with other companies like Tesla and their controversial founder, Elon Musk. One company had all the necessary ingredients, an eccentric founder, a seemingly perfect vehicle, and many promises. And we are talking about Nikola Motor and its vision for the future of transportation, but it was a vision that shattered in a matter of months. And we'll tell you all about Nikola in this episode of Company Forensics. Nikola Motor is born. This company is the brainchild of Trevor Milton. He is a bit of a dilemma. Half of the media calls him a veteran of the startup world, having formed 2 prior startups. The other half calls him a failure because his first 2 creations didn't amount to much. His second startup, dHybrid, aimed to reduce emissions by modifying diesel engines and turning them into hybrids. But dHybrid's existence was turbulent, as one of its lead investors apparently robbed them of intellectual property. Then, dHybrid's main ally, Swift Transportation, sued them for not delivering on the agreement to retrofit several of Swift's trucks. Milton eventually sold it and founded Nikola Motor Company in 2014. With this endeavor, he aimed to create highly efficient trucks. Like many a controversial founder before him, he wanted to take the road less traveled. In an interview with Forbes, Milton expressed that because he felt his idea was visionary, he decided to hire engineers who had no experience with the automotive sector to have a different perspective of things. Such comments immediately drew comparisons with another millionaire who had no prior automotive experience, Elon Musk, something frequent in the future. Hey, what did he expect, having Nikola Tesla's name? The first model, sort of. Like Tesla, Milton wanted to go big. In May 2016, Nikola released the Nikola 1 semi-truck. Features included 6x6 all-wheel drive, electric motors, and a whopping 2,000 horsepower thanks to its hydrogen fuel cell system, which fed the electric motors. It could also run on natural compressed gas, which made it versatile. The range was 1,200 miles, ideal for long-haul trucking, and for those interested, the down payment was just $1,500. If semi-trucks weren't your thing, then there was the Zero, an off-road utility terrain vehicle, or UTV, which promised outstanding features. In December 2016, at a show, he assured everybody that the Nikola 1 was on time and even hinted that the truck was operable, fuel cells inside and all. And people were blown away. No less than 7,000 deposits came in for the truck, and at $1,500 each, that totaled $10 million plus in real cash, and a total of $2.3 billion when considering the truck's final price. These numbers further hyped those around the company. Not long after, he formed alliances with companies within the truck manufacturing business. For Nikola, the future was bright. Milton promised that they'd be ahead of Daimler, Volvo, and PACCAR as the leader in truck manufacturers by 2019. But the 1 and the 0 didn't exist. So far, they were only concepts. This again drew comparisons with Musk and his tendency to overpromise, and the trucking industry was wary of Milton and Nikola. After all, the 7,000 reservations didn't provide enough for research, development, and production. Still, Milton invested $20 million of his own money to calm those around him, and he was confident that he would be able to raise $300 million. At the beginning of 2019, Nikola purchased the rights to use land in Arizona, where they built their plant and produce, in Milton's words, 50,000 trucks per year. More and more hype. In November of 2017, journalist Fred Lambert rode as a passenger in a stripped-down version of the Nikola Zero UTV with no doors or screens. He rode alongside none other than Trevor Milton himself. Basic as that version was, Lambert was ecstatic. He loved the ride, the quiet motors, and the comfortable suspension, and even declared that the Zero had more power than even the most powerful Tesla. Then, in 2018, giant Anheuser-Busch placed a provisional order for 800 leases of the Nikola 1. Milton again promised to start delivery by 2020, and just 1 year later, the company claimed there was a total of $14 billion in orders. Milton told the world Nikola had sold 8 years worth of production. Finally, he had raised the $300 million he promised, and was now looking to raise $1.25 billion to fund the entire operation. A big reason for the hype was that Nikola wasn't just about trucks, it was about providing a sustainable network of hydrogen supply to feed those trucks. And it wasn't only the US. Nikola announced by late 2019 another vehicle, the Nikola Tre, based off an Iveco platform, with an expected production date around 2022 or 2023. Milton even fired at Tesla, saying that Nikola's technology made their trucks 5,000 pounds lighter. And let's talk about that rivalry for a second. Nikola has always lived under Tesla's shadow. Both have the same idea, to build a clean energy network to supply their vehicles. Nikola even ventured into solar, just like Tesla. But Nikola wasn't just a small brother. The company sued Tesla, claiming Musk's company had copied their truck design. Tesla fired back, saying there was no reason for the lawsuit, but the legal battle continues now. Promises. Nikola wouldn't only be selling trucks, but the hydrogen needed to power them, and a nationwide fuel supply system. So in the end, each vehicle sold would give them about $750,000 in revenue. To tend to the average consumer, they offered a badass truck called the Badger, and with it, Nikola aimed to dethrone the F-150 as the best-selling truck in the US. Again, just a bit much. But Milton sounded really confident, and people bought into this confidence. By the beginning of 2020, Nikola was worth $23 billion, thanks to the public exchanges, hype, and the backing from big names like European truck manufacturers C&H, who invested $250 million. Milton was now a billionaire. Correct that, he was now the first hydrogen billionaire. But there were no trucks. None. Nikola was a company worth billions of dollars, with zero revenue, and the media started to take notice. After all, that $23 billion valuation was as big as their projected sales for 2024. Meanwhile, Milton didn't seem to care about having zero revenue. In an interview with CNBC, he said investors cared more about changing the world and the environment. Then he said that the plant in Germany was making trucks as they spoke. With every public appearance, Milton pumped everybody up. Or so it seemed. So, is it a fraud or not? Nikola was one of the biggest names in clean vehicles. Even giant General Motors announced that they would take an 11% share in the company for $2 billion. And as part of the deal, GM would manufacture the famous Badger in their plants. Nikola's stock went up as much as 53% when the news came out. So Milton and Nikola were having an excellent 2020. But some were suspicious of the fanfare. Journalist Brian Hobart said it best, again, using Tesla as a comparison. Tesla is a story about how a CEO can ride the hype wave to build a real company that, while often criticized by investors, does manage to sell a game-changing product. Nikola is a darker story about a CEO who uses the same tools and abuses investors' tendency to pattern match to build a business whose primary function is selling stock. Ouch, but that's what it looked like. Only concept trucks and an over-enthusiastic CEO. And then the Hindenburg happened. Not that one, but this one. The Hindenburg report. The media started picking up on the noise, such as the plant in Germany, which wasn't operational by the time Milton had said it was in several interviews. Those renders, over and over, Milton had said that he had come up with those designs in his basement. But according to the Financial Times, he purchased them from designers in Croatia. Then journalist Ed Ludlow discovered that the truck displayed in 2016 wasn't even operational. People around Milton were alarmed when he said the Nikola One was a functioning truck. It had no fuel cells, and to prove it moved, the company rolled it down a hill. Milton answered back rapidly and said there was no fuel cell because of safety reasons, and that he had never promised the car was actually working. And here's where Hindenburg Research comes in. They are a company dedicated to forensic financial research. In September of 2020, just 2 days after GM had agreed to partner with Nikola, they released a document indicating Milton had lied repeatedly. We have never seen this level of deception at a public company, especially of this size. The report shows the entire company is a lie, from fuel cells to trucks to their fuel system. Here's an example. Some trucks only worked with compressed gas instead of hydrogen. One of the trucks they unveiled couldn't run on hydrogen, but Milton stenciled H2 on it and said it did. So can you paint Ferrari on your Civic and say it's a Ferrari? I don't think it's fair game. Crash and consequences. The Hindenburg report sent Nikola crashing down. The stock had reached a $93.99 value in June of 2020, and by the end of September, it was $19 and still going down. After the report, many agreed Nikola had no value, and some analysts even predicted that the stock could drop as far as $5. The allegations of fraud sparked a federal investigation for misleading investors. Milton, on the other hand, disappeared. As soon as those words hit the airwaves, he quit Nikola and 1 week later erased all of his social networks. His personal fortune went from $6 billion to $2 billion, still not too bad, and he was out of a job. But it didn't end there. Weeks later, 2 women accused him of sexual harassment. They plan to carry on with legal actions while he has denied the charges. So this is a collapse, but of one man, not the company. Nikola still exists. GM even said they're interested in more involvement with Nikola. When they announced this, both stocks went up just a bit. Perhaps Nikola is just about that, hype and people believing it. But eventually, they will have to deliver on that promise. Milton won't be the one, but perhaps under the right guidance, the company can. See your sales clearly and feel organized every day with Pipedrive. It's the easy-to-use sales tool that you don't need an IT degree to work. Visually track your leads, pipelines, and communications in one neat place and never forget what to follow up about. Again, it automates your day so you can spend time on customers, not on legwork. No lengthy setup or training means you can jump in with both feet from day one. Break free from endless cycles of typing and retyping data in multiple places, spending hours searching for last conversations and forgetting important details. Pipedrive has helped 90,000 companies worldwide close over $24 billion in deals. Again, you can try it for free for 30 days and get 25% off on your first 3 months. Which side are you on about Nikola? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next week.